Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week. Bernie, AOC, Mamdani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're Democratic Socialists, and that's a very different thing.
If you have observed the Democratic establishment leaning heavily toward radical leftism, it mirrors that awkward moment when a friend ignores your advice and reaches out to an ex anyway. Bill Maher recently launched a scathing critique, specifically naming AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Zohran Mamdani. He isn't merely annoyed. He is conducting a desperate political intervention. Bill Maher, a lifelong Democrat, now sounds like the sober companion watching his colleagues take reckless shots at a late-night bar. He is looking at AOC and her rising socialist apprentice, Zohran Mamdani, begging them to stop for the sake of their party's survival. Predictably, they aren't listening. AOC recently dismissed critics like Bill Maher by suggesting they just need to get to know the candidates better. It is political matchmaking. Swipe right on socialism and hope for the best. Interestingly, while AOC advocates for open-minded dialogue, she rarely offers that same grace to Donald Trump or conservative voices. Her sudden pivot to deep listening feels selective, leaving even moderate Democrats feeling incredibly uneasy.
What do you say to the skeptics, though, in the party, or want to keep him at arm's distance, some who have some problems with him, even some fellow New Yorkers in the swing districts outside the city?
Get to know him. Get to know him. You know, this is not about having any kind of hard line. I think that if anybody is skeptical, I would say get to know him. And once you get into a room with him, kick the tires yourself and make your own assessment instead of just kind of making assessments from what you may see on television. If you have the ability to meet someone in person, you should meet them before you...
Bill Maher is certainly not pulling his punches. He utilizes his classic comparison of capitalist South Korea versus socialist North Korea as seen from a satellite. One is a beacon of light, the other is total darkness. He then shifts focus to Venezuela, which was once more prosperous than Poland in the 1990s. That was until Poland chose free markets and Venezuela doubled down on 21st century socialism, which resulted in the same old story: scarcity, hyperinflation, and economic ruin. Bill Maher's point is that New York isn't a magical bubble where these rules don't apply. He warns that if you try to reinvent the economic wheel, it might just crush you. Despite this, Zohran Mamdani remains a charismatic figure promoting policies that history suggests are economic anchors. Instead of applauding the passion, Bill Maher wonders if the party is sleepwalking toward 2028 with its eyes shut. While AOC wants everyone to meet Zohran Mamdani, Bill Maher suggests they should meet a history book instead. He then highlights Bernie Sanders, noting that his dream of a single-payer system failed even in his home state of Vermont. If a small, liberal state couldn't sustain it, why would a complex giant like New York succeed?
I know the kids think that stuff that happened before their appearance on the planet didn't really happen, but it did. We've run this experiment many times, and the results are always obvious. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, home.
Bill Maher continues to drive home the distinction. He argues that Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Zohran Mamdani aren't traditional Democrats at all. They are Democratic Socialists, an entirely different political species. To their credit, they are open about this label and offer no apologies for it.
Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century, or any century, a mess. It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening.
The issue, according to Bill Maher, is that many voters fail to see the difference in branding. However, his most stinging observation is that the very figures attacking capitalism, Bernie Sanders, AOC, and their peers, owe their global platforms and personal success to the capitalist system they criticize. Under a truly socialist regime, you don't become a wealthy superstar by being a critic. Instead, the state silences dissent, and you simply fade away.
This election is taking place when we have an administration in Washington which every day is moving us toward an authoritarian society.
This is America, New York City. Don't let them tell you any different. Don't let them tell you that we are the exception. We are the rule. And we set the bar for America. I'm talking to you, Donald Trump.
Let our words ring out so loud tonight that Andrew Cuomo can hear them in his $8,000 a month apartment. New York is not for sale.
This hypocrisy clearly exhausts Bill Maher. Those claiming the system is broken are often the ones most rewarded by it. He admits capitalism is messy and imperfect, but compared to the track record of socialism, it is the only reliable partner in the room. He compares it to a relationship where one person is chaos while the other quietly handles the mortgage. Bill Maher then references Abigail Spanberger, a moderate who warned that the socialist label would lead to disaster. She won her seat by moving toward the center, yet the party elite ignored her and threw her wisdom away. Bill Maher notes the Democratic Party is being pulled by its loudest fringes, voices that represent social media trends rather than the average voter. He views promoting radical agendas not as leadership, but as a dangerous game of political Russian roulette.
Now, Mamdani seems like a nice guy, and I congratulate him on an extraordinary political achievement. But before the whole left side of the country catches socialism fever, let's listen to the other big winner in last Tuesday's election, Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, who, before the 24 election, said things like, "If the party didn't shift to the center, we will get torn apart. And we need to never use the word socialist or socialism ever again." Well, she was right, but they didn't listen. Typical, am I right, ladies?
The silence from the moderate wing is becoming a major problem. That lack of pushback acts as a green light for extreme ideologies to take over the party's identity. Meanwhile, the statistics are clear. In 2024, the Democrats who won in pro-Donald Trump districts were all moderates. Not a single Democratic Socialist was among them. Even outlets like the New York Times have noted that the middle path is the only winning strategy. Yet, the DNC appears to be ignoring the data, opting for a chaos smoothie of fringe messaging instead. Rather than embracing the center, the party seems to be sliding into the DMs of socialist ideology, hoping for a different result this time around.
At least the party has a clear choice here, very clear. One wing is saying don't ever use the word socialist again, and one is saying,
I am a democratic socialist.
Clear, huh? So how do we decide who's right? Well, it turns out we don't really have to flip a coin. We have the evidence. In 2024, 13 Democrats won in districts Trump also won, all moderates. This isn't rocket science. All the left-leaning think tanks have done autopsies on 2024, and they all came up with the same message: move to the center.
Bill Maher cautions that prioritizing rigid ideology over winning over the electorate is a fast track to losing power. He points out that the DNC's most significant failures occurred when they focused entirely on performative activism and niche priorities rather than the concerns of the broader public.
Even the New York Times, which did so much to promote woke politics, now says the partisans are wrong. Moving to the center is the way to win. And Democrats should recognize the party moved too far left on social issues after Obama left office.
Voters aren't looking for viral stunts. They want stability and competence from leaders who understand that Twitter isn't the real world. Bill Maher is right. Most Americans aren't begging for a revolution. They want practical solutions. Yet the DNC behaves like a friend who ignores every red flag in a toxic relationship. He reiterates that socialism doesn't just fail. It collapses with a bang. Look at Venezuela. Millions of people fled the country. When AOC claims New York is an exception, Bill Maher warns that if socialism becomes the rule, the result won't be wealth, but a breakdown. He circles back to the Vermont experiment by Bernie Sanders because it is a perfect example. On paper, it sounded beautiful. In reality, it folded like wet paper because the costs were unsustainable. If a liberal lab, like Vermont, couldn't make it work, it's a warning for the entire nation.
Zohran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar. Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor in the Oval Office last week.
The final takeaway from Bill Maher is blunt. Democratic socialism looks great in a curated profile, but the real-world consequences are almost always an economic crisis. He concludes by emphasizing that America desires pragmatism and common sense over fringe theories. If the DNC wants to be relevant in 2028, they must stop chasing ideological purity and start talking to the voters who actually cast the deciding ballots. Will they listen to Bill Maher, or will they keep heading toward a political wreck? We'll find out soon enough. Thanks for joining the conversation today. If you liked this analysis, hit the like button and subscribe. Let me know in the comments. Is the party's current path a temporary phase or a permanent shift that will cost them the next election?